This hard and fast crap where people are beating on the table and pounding a big book.
Yeah.
This is the way you got. People are different. They're not the same. Their experience is different.
Abracadabra! Oh, hey, hello! How are you? Sick.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey, you! Yeah, you! Come here for a minute. I want to talk to you. Mama says you're brain dead, bang your head against the wall. Can't find peace of mind, brain needs an overhaul. Bonehead, brain dead, we're all the same. You can't think straight when your heart is in pain. Turn around, hit the ground, time to lay your burden down.
The views expressed on this broadcast of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show are those of the co-host and guest and do not necessarily reflect those of our affiliates. The topics and opinions on today's show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice. Take 12 Radio is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. And now, here's your host,
The man, the myth, the legend.
the Monty Man.
I'm telling you the truth, man, I ain't gonna lie to you. Guys, bad boys, we're all the same. Save my grace is the name of the game. Turn around, hit the ground, time to lay your burden down.
I tried to give Tony a dog biscuit, but she wouldn't take it.
She
I was
almost
just gonna
did.
look at it.
She almost did.
She almost did.
Yeah, I have no idea what it was.
It's called snaps. They're little snaps.
It looks like a domino, a square domino.
It does a little bit. Have you ever eaten a dog biscuit?
You're looking
A
at
dog
me like
bone?
I
Yeah,
have. Yeah, I have.
No, me too.
Yeah.
Did we ask this
With-
question last week?
I think so.
I think we
yeah.
did. Oh my gosh.
With peanut butter. They're great.
Welcome to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show. Tony's here.
Good morning.
Harv is here.
Yes, I am.
Denver's here.
Hello.
And the Monty Man is here. And I want to let everybody know, coming up on July 28th, which is, this Saturday.
Not far away.
This Saturday is the 4th annual summer barbecue. A Lifeline Connections alumni is inviting everyone to it. They're up in Vancouver, Washington, and this is going to be from 3 to 6 p.m. at the Faith Center in Vancouver, Washington, 10702 Northeast 117th Court, July 28th. Lifeline Connections is an amazing organization. They are part of the Southwest Washington Recovery Coalition. That's a mouthful right there.
Coalition alone is a mouthful.
Yeah, and their theme is bridging the gap to recovery. So if you're up in Vancouver,
Close.
join them for the 4th annual summer barbecue. Food, fun, raffles, games, face painting, duck tank, bouncy house.
I want to go to the bouncy house.
Bouncy house.
With the baby.
Babies everywhere.
Bouncy house.
That sounds horrible.
Babies everywhere. I see babies bouncing around. Oh, dear me. All right. So there's that. There, the topic this week. So in our 12-step fellowships, and maybe even in other circles of life, are we keeping it simple or are we keeping people sick? Had some interesting responses to that on social media, so we're going to be talking about that. But of course, we've got to complain about something, right?
Stop right there. It's time for Monty Man's Weekly Whine.
That baby.
It never gets old.
It never gets old.
It just doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
It would. Trust me, it would.
I found my CD of the baby, by the way.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that last week.
Oh,
Are you playing it over and over again?
In my car, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got two, and the second one kind of is a segue a little bit into what we're going to be talking about. But the first one, and now I'm addressing those of you who are people of faith here that do this. Nobody else, just people of faith. When you post on social media, when you repost something, you really ought to be very aware of the name of the original person that posted it. Because some of you,
anonymity.
well, no, not that. Because some of their names are things like mother effing so and so, or women are all bees. You know, they use the bee. They'll use really profane language in their titles, or they will comment on what the original post is by using profanity that's really strong, and so you repost it. Right? But the meme, which is the poster with the fancy wording on it in the picture, doesn't just come up, but also what they said comes up too.
There's a trail.
And here you are,
Chemtrails.
Pastor John Smith, reposting something and it's saying mother effing blah, 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 blah. Come on, people. Pay attention. It doesn't look good on you when you're trying to represent the gospel and you're reposting this stuff that is... I know your intention wasn't to do that. I talked to a couple of people this week, and they went, "I didn't even see that part." I go, "You gotta pay attention."
Stop getting the sacramental wine.
Woo! Yeah, pay attention to what you're posting and reposting, because it isn't very attractive when you're going around telling everybody about how they should, do better in life and improve their speech, and and then you're going, mother, basically.
Ooh, the love machine.
But the one that I'm really
All right, this is number 2, right?
talking about keeping people sick instead of keeping it simple. So my wife has she had a meniscus tear in her one knee, and they went in, they did surgery, and they fixed it, and it worked. The other knee is doing that now, but the doctor that did that surgery is no longer in practice on the other knee. So now, because of the new healthcare laws, thank you for this. Right,
there's another line.
There was an eye roll on that one.
They have to follow these lengthy procedures that don't do anything but line the pockets of the people that are making you do them. So now she has to go through physical therapy that is proven over and over again in this case not to work. But if she doesn't go through weeks of physical therapy, and these people get paid very well for it, right? Then the insurance company won't pay for her surgery. So she's got to jump through all these hoops while it gets worse.
Of course.
Right? And then the surgery becomes more complicated, and then the insurance company won't pay for that kind. They would have paid for the original kind. On top of that, check this out. Doctors can no longer, or at least they're not legally able to do this, prescribe you pain medication 30 pills at a time. They give you, like, if you had Vicodin or if you had oxycodone because you came out of surgery, they would give you a 30 count, right? They can only prescribe you a week's worth at a time, and they can only do that for a maximum of 6 weeks, no matter what your surgery was. In other words, if you've had open heart surgery, you will have pain medication, but you only have a week's worth of it. So when Friday comes along, if you don't make it to the pharmacy, you're up, creek that weekend, because they're not giving you a month's worth of pain medication. They can't. They're blaming it on the opiate crisis, right? And I get that. But so they can only give you a week's worth of medication, and then only 6 weeks maximum. So if you're not healed up in 6 weeks, sorry.
Oh, wow.
You're done. And so is it any wonder while people that people who would never normally do this, that haven't healed up completely, are going out and finding pain medication
Something
out on the street because they can't get proper pain management.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we have an opiate crisis. I am telling you, I mean, it makes no sense. We are creating the crisis by the way we are handling healthcare. And thank you very much for all the new healthcare programs that are out there. You really did a number on us. You really, in the name of making sure everybody gets healthcare. Yeah, everybody's going to get it, but it's going to be the bottom of the pile as far as quality goes. And it goes along with, I can only talk to my doctor for 15 minutes at a time now. I can only talk about one issue.
Oh,
Now,
really?
some doctors will violate that, but they're getting into trouble.
Mine has. You
Yeah.
know what? I can spend a few minutes with him.
Yeah, you can go over a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
this and that.
Right.
Instead of just this.
So when I had my hips replaced, right, this took me 6 months to get over. And I needed 6 months of pain management. I would have only gotten 6 weeks.
Oh.
Yep. So are we keeping people sick? You bet we are. You know, and then we complain about the crisis that we're in, and we wonder why. And here's the other thing: insurance companies, they're not doctors. And this is why so many general practitioners are getting out of the business now. My wife's general practitioner, she's leaving. She's going to go help in another country because she is fed up with the insurance companies telling her how to treat her patients.
Yeah.
So they're telling her, you have to send Marcia to physical therapy. You have to do it. She goes, that's not what she needs. She needs this surgery. It works. It's worked before. I want to do this surgery. Nope, can't do it. So you got people that know nothing about the medical profession making decisions for the doctors, and the doctors' hands are tied.
Of course.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody gets health care. Geez. So there's my wine. So are we keeping it simple? Because it was simple before. You go to your doctor, they take an x-ray, they go, this is the issue. Here, we're going to go have surgery. We take care of the problem, and you're done. Not anymore.
Simple. It was simple.
It was simple.
I don't think they want you to be done.
I don't think they do either, Marv.
Yeah.
They don't.
I don't think they do either. We have cures for things that it's well known that we have them in other countries, and they're not permitted here.
Right.
And they've been taking care of issues. And one of them, by the way, many people believe is different kinds of cancer. That European doctors and some doctors south of the border and so forth have actually been able to surpass the technology we have here. We have it, but we're not allowed to use it. And people are getting well, but not in the United States.
No. We're cluttered.
It makes you wonder, you know. I mean, remember, I don't know if you remember years ago, a man invented a car that could run on water.
Yeah.
And GM or somebody bought him out, and they destroyed it. Right? Because what happens then? Well, nobody's buying gas now.
It's kind of like James with the the auto insurance company yesterday.
Yeah.
So a car hit a truck, the truck hit him, and that's how he got rear-ended over by Arby's.
Oh, okay.
And so he called because they couldn't get the car started, and he had to call it into his insurance anyway. So he's like, well, I have roadside assistance. Can you send me a tow truck?
Yeah.
He goes, no, you're in a collision. It only helps if you break down. You're in a crash.
What?
And then,
Well, I am
That don't count.
I am broke down.
yeah, exactly.
broke
And then
down now.
they're like, it's the other person's insurance to have to deal with it. Well, it ended up it was just the wires disconnect when it's on impact.
Yeah.
The battery wires. So
Oh,
he fixed it.
yeah.
But then he would have had to wait for the other insurance company to say the okay from the other person. It was just one big
Oh,
mess.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Chemtrails.
Chemtrails.
That's another thing. Insurance. Is it legalized theft? Sometimes.
Pretty much. And another thing too is we talked in this program, I don't remember when, but about taking responsibility.
Right.
A lot of this crap
Right.
that's going on is to try to avoid responsibility.
You bet it is.
Yep.
Darn
I will
right.
say I was proud for the lady who initially started this because she admitted through rubbernecking, and so she's like, it was all my fault. So I'm like, thank God for that one.
Yeah.
All right. She
Yeah.
took
She
responsibility.
did take responsibility.
Excellent.
All right, so Tony, you're going to have to eat your mic better. There you
Okay.
go. There you go. Okay,
There we
good.
go.
All right, so of course we got to do some wins, some feel good stuff. Yay! That just makes me feel good. Doesn't it make you feel good?
It's like, dun-dun-dun.
Yeah. All right, so here's a weekly win. I got to, although it wasn't for Denver, I went up to an engagement party on Saturday. I was supposed to pick up Denver and got halfway up there and totally forgot him. Sorry, Denver.
I forgive you.
But it was cool. My friend Corey and his fiancee Lindy had an engagement party, and we got to play engagement party games. And some of them were really fun. I mean, they were actually... They weren't lame. I've been to some of these things before, and they're just
They weren't lame.
They weren't lame. They were a hoot. We found out that Corey is a terrible driver. Really bad.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that
drives
about
way
him.
too fast and really.
I knew a lot of things about him, but I didn't know his driving was
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. People say, "Oh, we get scared to death," and it was cool. And then I met Lindy's sister, who lives in Japan. She has a job over in Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
And we FaceTimed and talked about Japan because I was in Japan in 1971 with the Boy Scouts of America, and we were comparing notes. And I thought, wow, technology, even though it has been the downfall in some areas and other areas, it's really great because here I am talking to this gal about different places we'd both been.
A long ways away.
Thousands and thousands of miles away in Japan. So that was
Yeah.
cool. I thought that was really, really cool. And then yesterday, our son Cameron came up for the day, and we went and saw Ant-Man and the Wasp. that was a movie that was part of the Marvel comic series. And for those of you who are into that stuff, go see the movie.
Is that a cartoon?
No, it's not a cartoon. It's special effects and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so having our oldest son up for the day, that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah, and I went to Applebee's and I had steak and shrimp,
I hate you right now.
Parmesan sauce.
That sounds amazing.
It was delish. Yeah. So there you go. Eating and friends.
And a movie.
Always get a movie. You always get a win when you have eating friends in a movie.
Eating friends in a movie.
All right, so we're going to bypass trivia this week and go right to the topic because I want to spend some time with it. So don't go away. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, you! Yeah, you! Come celebrate with us as we celebrate recovery at the 12th annual Hands Across the Bridge, September 7th, Marion Square Park, Salem, Oregon. There'll be a DJ, live music, food, games, and so much more from 2 to 7 p.m. And the admission is absolutely free. And during the main event at 5 p.m., all attendees will walk across the Marion Street Bridge to honor those in recovery and to remember those lost to addiction and mental health challenges in the past year. Again, September 7th, Marion Square Park, from 2 to 7 p.m., Salem, Oregon. For Hands Across the Bridge, building bridges, that's what we do. For questions about the event, or if you would like information about becoming a sponsor or vendor, please call Christina at 503-393-4273. That's Christina at 503-393-4273. 2018 Hands Across the Bridge is sponsored and organized by Marion Polk Peer Coalition.
A little thunder. Yes, welcome back to the show. Oh, I almost forgot to push the right button. There we go. So that's courtesy of our friend Wes.
I hope to one day I find one of those things.
They're really easy to make,
You
actually.
you ought to just make one.
Just get a tube, a thingy, and a thing, and then go like this, and go bling, and then it goes boom.
And you got it.
There you go.
There.
And
Then you call
Have
it
a
a
biscuit.
who to thunk it.
Who would have thunk it?
who'd have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it?
Okay, so the question was, in our 12-step fellowships, are we keeping it simple? Are we still keeping it simple? Or sometimes, maybe, are we keeping people sick? I am sure that question is cause for some people to get very defensive because many people are very protective of their 12-step fellowships, and they should be because they've saved their lives. I mean, if you had something that saved your life, you'd probably be pretty protective of it too. So I got some nasty email.
Oh,
I
boy.
won't-
Here we go.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm not going to read. It was really nasty.
Not so simple.
It was like
We need to burn
nasty.
them down.
Yeah.
Nasty.
We're going to bypass those. The language is a little. Meh.
We'll talk later about that.
Yeah.
Right?
But Dr. Bob Smith, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, he actually wrote on his prescription pad. It's called Dr. Bob's Prescription. And he wrote 3 things: trust God, clean house, help others. That really is the bulk of the 12-step message. And that's pretty simple. Now, the way you do that may not be as simple. I mean, the explanation of it is very simple. So if you're brand new to recovery, or if you're brand new to listening to the show, and you're thinking about getting into recovery, or you've never been to a meeting, or you're very, very new, you might be asking questions like, trust God. I don't even know who God is, or I don't even know how to do that. Clean house. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Why do I need to clean house? People harm me, right? So I need that to be explained. Helping other people right now, I can't even help myself.
Right.
So then it starts to become a little bit more complicated. Well, that is spelled out. How to do those 3 things is spelled out in detail in the 12-step process in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, there's other ways to go about keeping it simple as far as taking care of yourself, but we're talking about this in the context of 12-step recovery. So you would probably need someone to walk you through and help you learn. I did how to trust God. How do I clean house? How do I take responsibility for my part? And then how do I give this thing away? How do I help others? And I have to wonder sometimes, and I've been at meetings from the East Coast, I've been meetings in the Midwest, I've been to meetings here on the West Coast, and they're as diverse as grains in the sand. They're also very similar in some ways because organizations like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and more recently Celebrate Recovery have done a very good job at their organizations as a whole as keeping things pretty much the same is kind of like their format and that kind of thing. But there is a lot of diversity depending on your culture that you're in. It's different in the Midwest than it is in the West Coast or the East Coast. East Coast is very different. I mean, New York Alcoholics Anonymous and Akron Alcoholics Anonymous, you would swear it was 2 different fellowships.
Oh, wow.
But there are a lot of similarities, but there's some big differences too. So one of the things that I've noticed in my travels is there are some meetings where the keeping it simple has been very simple, very focused on the directions and following the steps that are in the Big Book. And yet other meetings, other fellowship meetings, have been as far away from the program, as we are from we're in Oregon, as we are from, Maine. I mean, you're like, what happened? So I asked the question. I said, have we done that? Are we guilty of this sometimes? And I got some interesting answers because I think, this is just my humble opinion, I think that if we don't keep it simple, trust God, clean house, help others, that we run the risk of going down different rabbit trails for different reasons, political correctness,
Because we get busy.
we get busy, we have control issues, all that stuff, and then we end up keeping each other sick instead of getting well. And I don't think that's limited to 12-step fellowships. I think that happens in church. I think it happens in civic organizations where we lose our focus. So we know, at least in Alcoholics Anonymous, we know the primary purpose is to help the alcoholic who still suffers, right? That's our primary purpose. We can't do that if we're sick. So we have to get well. And it's a pretty simple process. But here are some of the statements that were made. Mike M. says, to the question, are we keeping it simple or are we keeping him sick? He says, well, when we get into the fellowships, we are most definitely sick. And keeping it simple is a proven, valuable tool to help us recover from our hopeless state of mind and body until we can process our emotions more adequately to deal with more complex situations which used to baffle us. And I should also add that even after 26 years of sobriety, he says, I still keep it simple. Dennis B. said, we as humans might like a friend in our failures. You know, misery loves company. We might like a friend to kind of join us when we fail, right? Or we might have to address our own issues. To be fair, it is unconscious. We don't want anyone to fail, but we don't want to be alone if we do. I thought that was interesting.
Very interesting.
Very good comment.
Yeah, very
Right.
good comment. Darlene from this area here said, "There's not a human button. No, there's not a button. You know, like the smiley buttons and the crying button. There's not a button." She says, "I hope we're keeping it simple enough to still help people." And I'll read some other ones here later. Marv, do you think we're keeping it simple enough in today's 12-step programs to continue to help people?
It seems like it to me, what I see going on.
Right.
You're keeping it
but-
simple.
Well, yeah, and I don't know because a lot of people who know me know that when I start thinking, I get in trouble because I really go too far with it.
Right.
And so that's not keeping it simple. I have a hard time personally keeping things simple.
Do you?
Yeah. But there's so much variety you're talking about here.
There
You're
is.
talking about people from every facet and walk of life and every kind of experience, not positive either,
Right.
going on. And, so,
It
yeah.
can be challenging to keep it simple, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So we really need each other to kind of reel ourselves in sometimes. Because I've been in meetings where it got kind of sideways and somebody would kindly and gently said, let's kind of regroup, guys. Let's get back to the topic or let's keep it simple. Because we can go in weird directions sometimes. But it's interesting you say that because knowing you all these years, you have a reputation for somebody who keeps it simple. And yet you yourself admit that you have a hard time doing that.
For me,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting how people will perceive us and how we know ourselves? And
Yeah.
Tony, you think we keep them sick sometimes? Or do you think we're doing okay and we're keeping it simple?
Well, I kind of agree on what Marv said. I mean, he said it perfectly right there. I mean, I was trying to go, me personally was going to go another avenue, but I was just making it more complicated for myself. So I had to
Right.
pull back and retrieve.
Yeah.
I do that to myself
the
all the
exact
time.
moment, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I can do that to myself. And I know there's different meetings around here that, some are very to the point and simple, and then some are like, oh my God.
They're down some road. You're going, what happened?
Yeah.
Well, the more meetings you have, the more chance you're going to have this diversity that is sometimes far from the program.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to happen the more you have, the more people you have.
Yeah, and I was going to like 2 or 3 different meetings at one point, and then I'm like, no, I'll just go to the 1 or 2 I usually go to.
Yeah.
Because my mind
Sure.
works better there, if that makes sense.
What do you think, Deborah? You think we can tend to keep people sick, or do we keep it simple?
For me,
Yeah.
I got to keep it kind of simple. I mean, there's some basic rules and things that I need to follow.
Right.
But I need to keep it simple because my mind, like all of us, as I'm looking across this room, we might have a tendency to run with our thoughts.
Sure.
And that usually gets me into trouble. I start thinking about other things. I really need to concentrate on just keeping it simple.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to work better in my life at this stage by not getting too busy about worrying about others.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I care about everybody. I love you and I pray for you. But I got to really slow my brain down about getting busy on your thoughts or what you should be doing. I really need to concentrate on what I should be doing, which is simple.
That's pretty simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Ken E. said, guess that depends on how serious those are about working the program with honesty. Unfortunately, too many leading the groups haven't been honest with themselves.
Hallelujah.
And more play the role of recovering addicts. It becomes a blind leading the blinder. And I think that can happen. It's interesting because I remember going to a meeting I went to quite often for years way out in the country, and there were old timers there that were sponsoring and teaching newcomers. But I was like, what you're teaching and sponsoring them, I was listening. I never actually approached them about it, but I was listening. I was saying, that's not the program. But what I found out was that's what they were taught was the program. So they thought that was the program because they didn't do the investigation themselves.
We get programmed.
We do. And we live in a society today where people are lazier than ever. They won't check things out for themselves. They'll take everything at face value, and then they'll pass that on as being what is truth or what is the program or what is the philosophy or whatever. And then those people pass it on, and what you have is, you remember that game you played in
I was
school
just about
called
to say
telephone?
like that one game.
Yeah, when you say something, by the time it gets around, it's totally different. And that's what we have. And in doing that, we end up keeping people sick because we keep them from the solution.
Yeah.
And we know in your mainstream 12-step fellowships, the problem was being selfish, self-centered, and self-seeking. The outward manifestation of the problem was the abuse of substances. And then the solution was a relationship with a power greater than yourself. And in fact, it's been said that the main purpose of these fellowships is to help you develop a relationship with a power greater than yourself to help you solve your problem. And if that's not what we're doing, then we're not representing that organization well. We're not representing the program well. And in that, if we're not doing that, then I think we are guilty of keeping each other sick because we're teaching meeting dependence. We're teaching sponsor dependence. We're teaching pastor dependence. We're teaching, I remember my scoutmaster when I was in scouts. I idolized this guy, and he would tell me, be careful, don't put me on a pedestal. Right? But I was, his name was Mr. McCann. I was Mr. McCann dependent. And we learn this stuff when we're infants. We learn to be dependent on our parents or the adults who are raising us. And sometimes we never break free of that and learn how to stand on our own 2 feet. And so we learn to be people dependent. And then we transfer that over into our recovery, sometimes from childhood. And then we're meeting dependent. If I don't get to a meeting, I'm going to drink. Well, okay, what if you can't get to a meeting? Can you stay sober? Well, if you learn to be God dependent, you can.
Amen.
But when you're brand new, that might be hard.
Yeah.
You know, so we need what's his name? Oh, I can't think of his name right now. One of our sponsors. It totally lost me. But he always talks to me about the importance of sponsorship and have we lost some of that? How many people actually have sponsors in today's 12-step fellowships? And I have heard that the numbers range from about 80% and higher that do not.
Mm-hmm.
Or they have a phone number and that's their sponsor.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my sponsor over there. I never talk to him. It's kind of like, that's the church I go to over there on Easter. Right? Yeah. So it's really not your church. It's
a sponsor word always kind of bothers me a little bit. I have fellowship with people that help me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I got a problem, I talk with them. And
yeah,
sponsor is a weird word for me.
Well, it's old school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's old school.
But nonetheless, if you don't have fellowship with somebody you
Mm-hmm.
can trust and speak with, you're going to split. It's going to be difficult.
So there's a couple of names for that are given. There's sponsor, mentor, spiritual advisor.
Mentor is a good one.
Things like that. In the days of early AA, and I know it's not a popular thing today, but people actually gave people places to live and jobs. And that's where we got the terminology sponsor. They were sponsoring them, helping to sponsor them financially. Now you hear today's fellowship, oh, don't give that guy money.
Yeah.
Don't hire somebody else in the program. You're going to get burned. All that kind of, but they'd actually have them move in with them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd have them work in their mechanic shop or on the farm and things like that. And they would sponsor them in that manner, you know. Let's see here. Shannon F. says, I think we do both sometimes, but not on purpose.
Yeah.
I would agree. Fred W. says, our primary purpose is to help the person still suffering. Refer to the traditions, please. Yes, sir.
Doing it right now.
Please.
Yeah,
Please.
right. Yeah, we
Please.
get that. We understand it. We understand that. It's just a question, so settle down. Robert G. Yes, 21 years here, and I keep it simple. Also, author S says, simple, helping another afflicted, as I was, take them through the steps exactly as they were written in 1939. Simple, permanent recovery is possible for all. Mm-hmm. And I think he makes a good point, because I don't know that we always do that. You know, the best way to do something is look how it was done and most effective and do that.
Mm-hmm.
How it used to work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, why would I change it up? And we have treatment facilities.
Sometimes you have to. People all that, you know, now you got me riled up.
Excellent. I like
know.
it. Here we go.
Wow. All right.
This
Here we
hard
go.
and fast crap where people are beating on the table and pounding a big book.
Yeah.
This is the way you got. People are different. They're not the same. Their experience is different.
Society's
and so
not
they
the
see
same.
things from a different angle and different perspective through broken glass.
I get that.
And
I get that.
And man, it just drives me nuts when people. I'm not putting down the big book. I'm not putting down the principles of our program. I'm just saying, don't try to shove it down somebody's throat. Have some discernment. Kind of see where they're coming from. What's happened to them.
I think that's
where they've been, and not just shove this stuff down their throat. Well, if you're not going to do that, I'm not going to be your sponsor. Get out. That's not the way to do it.
That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying,
I'm bringing it up.
But we can do that with the Bible too. Well, let's change the Bible around to fit society.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we get ourselves in trouble. There are certain absolutes, Marv. There are certain absolutes that work and certain ones that don't. And I think we change it.
People aren't going to hear those the same way.
So we water it down for comfort's sake, and then they don't get well?
No, we keep helping them. We don't quit.
No, I'm not saying quit. I'm not going to kick you to the curb if you're not going to write your 4-step out like I wrote mine out. but there's certain foundational principles I think that stay the same.
Oh, I agree with that.
And that's what
I
I'm talking
just
about.
don't agree with shoving them down somebody's throat when they're not ready for it.
True.
And I don't know.
He got all excited.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
I just think that in the name of making everybody feel comfortable, we end up watering stuff down in our world today to the point where everybody's so comfortable that nobody's changing.
We're talking about a one-on-one relationship.
Right.
Okay, we're not talking about, or I'm not anyway, in a meeting in a group where there's 30 people.
Right.
I'm talking about when you're sitting down in the coffee shop with a guy with a big book.
Yeah.
And you're going through that thing, and you're laying these principles. And part of the reason I'm sober is because I agreed with these principles, but I look at them differently than other people do.
Okay.
And that's the only thing I'm trying to say. Don't become some sort of bleeding deacon and hammering the gavel on the table and
well, and that's where we get the attitude of shut up, sit down, you have nothing to say.
I used to hear that a lot.
Yeah. I haven't heard it in a while, but it was pretty popular there for a while. We've actually had people say, well, I needed that. And I'm like, did you really? You came in here all chewed up and spit out?
Maybe they did.
And you needed somebody to talk down to you? I don't think you ever need somebody to talk down to you. Ever. I think it's irrelevant. I think it's damaging. I don't think you ever need it. People can be firm with you, but there's no reason to shame somebody into submission. What?
You know how I am with bugs.
Tony saw a spider.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't pause that. That's a moment. That's wonderful.
I don't think there's ever a reason to shame somebody into submission. I don't see God doing that.
Oh.
I mean, do you respond well when somebody says that you're a loser and you've got nothing to give or offer?
None of us
shut up.
Are going to respond to that kind of attitude.
No.
I mean, you will respond. Excuse me.
You will respond.
You will respond. But
just not in the best ways.
It's in a negative attitude. So,
yeah.
We
so,
should.
yeah, I think we're on the same page, Marv. I'm just, because I am also, you have to be flexible. People are different. You know, you do kind of customize this.
You know, I'm not saying to enable them.
Right.
And baby them. I'm just saying, you know, you see it so many times in meetings. Some of these guys and girls too, you know, they're just, boy, this is the way, blam, 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 you know, and this is the way it is. And if you're doing it different, then you're going to get drunk or high. And
the truth is, even if they're right, it's not going to be received when they present it that way.
Correct.
So
you may be right, but
we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked how excited he got there.
I know.
It's like hydraulics were in his chair, so he just kind of came out of there.
We need our video back.
I like it.
I'm not going to do. I could expound further, but I'm not going to do it.
Well, I remember talking about keeping people sick. I remember, and this is one way that it's happened. I remember sitting in a meeting several years ago, and a pastor friend of mine, who I did not know was dealing with alcoholism, came to a meeting, and he was in the meeting, and I guess, I don't know if they asked if there was any newcomers or, you know, they welcomed him, blah, blah, blah. And he mentioned his first name. I knew who he was. Nobody else knew who he was. And some people who had been around quite a while, who should have known better, were bashing the church.
Oh.
Just, Christians this and church that and blah, blah, blah. Guy never came back because he was getting attacked. Because he was brand new to recovery. He didn't know how to let that roll off his shoulders yet, and he was getting attacked. And in that, those old-timers kept that guy sick. Now, is that on them? A little bit? Yeah, I think so. One guy says in here, basically, okay, it says, Vincent said, the program is inherently simple. Also, I am responsible for my own recovery. I participate or not. No one has the power to keep me sick. Yeah, they do. if you don't know how to get well and you're a babe in this thing, people can really mess you up.
Yeah.
And that's one way, cramming it down their throat.
Yeah.
They can mess you up. So yeah, that's a cop-out to me. When people say nobody has the power to cause you to do anything, that's not true. Because if you're immature, you're childlike, you don't know, people can participate in your life in a way that damages you, and then they don't want to take responsibility, so they say, well, I can't make you do anything. I don't know. I think we can keep people sick. Tracy B said, wow. Wow, Monty, wow. Thought-provoking for sure. Deep question. I remember that phrase years ago, keep it simple. In Al-anon, I like keep it real. Janika said, I think suggesting KISS, keep it simple, stupid, is not one of the ways we inadvertently keep others sick. Shaming others for seeking outside help or for being in the mainstream of life. Ironically, the Big Book encourages both of these paths. There are people that will shame you sometimes because you're seeking outside help. Well, you shouldn't have to, and that's a way of that dogmaticism, you don't need treatment, just follow this Big Book. Well, maybe they do need treatment. Maybe there's trauma and things that the book talks about that we don't have the ability to help people with. It talks about people need outside help.
Yeah, and recently we've had that in our group.
Right.
And it got kind of hairy there for a few weeks. And finally, I'm going to get myself in trouble. But I spoke
You're on
up.
a roll today.
I
I
love
spoke up at a meeting because they were trying to figure out what they were going to do. And this whole idea you can't kick anybody out of AA,
right?
Which sort of kind of I agree with up to a point. And this was the point. I just said in the meeting, I says, look, we can't help everybody.
Right.
There's people that have problems that AA is not going to fix. And so we need to be hard and make a hard line here and say, hey, look, go get some help somewhere else. We can't help you.
Yeah, that's very true. And what people sometimes they don't understand, there's difference between requirements for membership and requirements for meeting attendance. We've talked about that before. Just because somebody is not welcomed in the meeting because of their behavior doesn't mean we've taken their membership away. It just means you can't come in here and make this an unsafe room.
Yeah.
You can't do that. We're not saying you're not a member. You're a member when you say you are. You're a member if you have the desire to stop drinking or whatever program you're in. But there's a difference between membership and acting appropriately in a gathering of people where it's safe or unsafe. And so you're right. And by the way, back in 1939, there was a lot of these issues weren't coming up for a couple of reasons. One of them was we never talked about it. It was kept in the closet. Aunt Maggie, with her crazy thinking, people just didn't talk about Aunt Maggie. Aunt Maggie wasn't showing up at the meetings. In fact, there was a time when African Americans and women were not welcome in AA meetings. That'll blow your mind. Thank God that's changed.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is part of the sickness is the people who act that way.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And I may be one of them. So,
hey, man, I'm part of the program there.
So let's look at Dr. Bob's prescription. Trust God, clean house, help others. Very simple. How we do that can be more complicated. So if we're trusting God, and I'm sorry, I think you trust God before you trust the process of any human man-made thing.
We ought to.
How do you clean house? Well, one of the things we know is before you take the speck out of somebody else's eye, take the log out of your own. So keep your side of the street clean, and how to help others. Sometimes the best way to help somebody is to say, I don't know how to help you. I can point you in a direction where there may be some help for you. I can make some suggestions, but I don't know how to do it, and nor do the other 40 people in this room. And you may need to get some outside help. But we don't like to hear that because we're so protective of our 12-step fellowships. You know, we have the cure-all to everything. And I'm sorry, we don't.
Well, you know, if people think about it, that's not the way God works.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
for everybody, it works different. When God's doing the deal, he knows.
Yeah.
And things are different for everybody.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet. So it's an interesting issue. I hope that I live my life in a way that isn't keeping other people sick, but I'm sure I've been guilty of participating in that. I think any time that we treat people less honorably than God would have us treat them, we contribute to them staying sick. I mean, we just do. You know, and I think we just need to have an attitude of repentance in that area and saying, God, gosh, I'm sorry if I'm doing that. Help show me a way to be a better influence on others. You know, if there is a way to teach people to become more God dependent, show me how to do that with somebody who's brand new in a gentle, kinder way.
Whole bunch of grace.
Yeah, a whole bunch of grace in a way that's effective. And with somebody who's been around a while, if I need, you know, if I have permission to do so, help me to be firm but never harsh. Sometimes we need to do that.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes we can really keep each other sick by being afraid to confront or confronting improperly. Or we can keep people sick by just not giving away what's been given to us. You know, and I am not one of these guys that says never say no to service. I think you have to learn how to say no. Because that can make you sick if you're saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
But I think we can always somehow, some way, if for no other action but to pray for each other, we can all be part of keeping it simple and helping people get well. So there you go.
Sounds simple.
I long for the old days, not because they was easy, but because they was simple.
Because they
It was simple. True cowboy. What do you call that?
Logic.
Logic. There you go.
So if you'd like to comment on the show, you can do so by becoming a Podomatic member. It's for fun and for free. Simply go to take12recoveryradio.podomatic.com and click on the follow button. Or if you just like to email us, you can email us at take12radio.com. Tony, the shout-out list is there. We forgot to do that at the beginning of the show. Who do we shout out to this week?
All right. This week is Jameson, Mike, Dennis, Darlene, Shannon, Fred, Roland, Arthur, Tracy, Stephen, Ken, Janicki, Gordon, Vincent, and Patrick.
There you go.
Thank you, guys.
Patrick is the one I couldn't remember
I was
his name
wondering
for
if
some
it was
reason.
that or the other one.
Patrick Gell, yeah.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about the importance of sponsorship, and we, you know, it is sad that we have less and less people taking people under their wing and actually walking them through this process. Not sure why that is, but it'd be nice if we got back to that. Whether it's a mentor, sponsor, or spiritual advisor, you know, people helping each other one-on-one without cramming it down their throats, right?
Amen.
Or putting spiders in front of them.
Poor Tony. You should have seen her. We paused
Oh,
it
it
for a
was
minute.
beautiful. I loved it.
We paused it for a minute while she
Totally
squirmed.
freaked out.
I was trying not to make it seem.
I
was
thought
like,
she's going to knock me out.
I know.
of my chair
I'm
there
going,
for a minute.
yeah, what'd you do, Marv?
I watched it come from right here. I'm like,
It was adorable. Okay. Our closing song is by Leah Martinson. It's called This Time. You can visit her website at leahmartinson.com. She is a recovery recording artist and a friend of Take 12 Radio. Check it out.
This time, I'm just gonna listen. This time, I won't come with expectations. This time, I'll wait to hear your answers. This time, your will.
time, your will this time, I humbly come.
Recovery recording artist Leah Martinson. For more of her great music, visit www.leahmartinson.com or follow the links here at take12radio.com to her webpage. Hey, I've got a challenge for you. Ask yourself, are you keeping it simple? Are you keeping yourself sick? You've got to figure that out. Until next time, this is the Monty Man along with the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
Good guys, bad boys, we're all the same. Saved by grace is the name of the game. Turn around, hit the ground, time to lay a burden down.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Cause she's a super cat, she's super kitty, meow.
Yeah, kitty, 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 kitty.